Hey, this is Jon Croft with Culture Warfare with Jon Croft, and I am Jon Croft, and we have Rebecca here tonight. How are you doing, Rebecca?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. How are you?
Good. Did you enjoy our stories at Meeting Moses Weekly this week?
Yeah, I'm especially curious about the Fairy Queen again. I think I mentioned
Mhm.
that last week too.
But it's
But
great.
now that you're at Realm Makers, you might actually get to see the book in person.
Yes.
And I know you've been listening to it on Audible as well, I think.
Mhm.
So
It's
I'm
great. It's
very
delightful.
curious. Yeah.
It's almost like the equivalent of like watching what is that movie? Lady Hawk or The Green Knight. There's one The Green Knight about the Green Knight with Sean Connery in it, but it's not called The Green Knight. These kinds of movies that are not like meant to be one-to-one comparisons with actual historic medieval stuff. They're supposed to be like this fantastical representation of the medieval, but not actually be historically accurate, if
Yeah.
that makes any sense. That's
Yeah.
also true in the language itself. The language itself was not something that they spoke in the medieval time, but it was meant to be kind of romantic. It's like a romantic imagining of.
Hmm.
So, but also, you'd think that it wasn't understandable, that it was just very foreign to us, but I was listening to it on audiobook and I could totally understand what he's saying.
Hmm.
So, maybe I'm just the rare individual, but it's like, I remember when I talked about the Fairy Queen last week, um, I think her name was Rebecca, was it Rebecca Reynolds? I don't remember. But the lady who headed up that project wanted to make the language more relatable.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so, but when I read the original language, it doesn't sound that unrelatable to me or
Hmm.
uninteresting to me. To me, it's actually very interesting
Yeah.
and fun. But who knows? Maybe she made it even better.
Yeah.
We'll have to find out.
Yeah.
So hopefully I can track down Sky Turtle Press
Yeah.
over at Realm Makers and see if they have a copy or two. We'll find out.
That would be very cool.
Yeah. So our topic um, tonight is fans and fan-worthy culture builders. So in saying that, this has a lot to do with me being at Realm Makers because, when I look at a lot of these events, I think of a lot of the fans and I think of a lot of the culture builders out there who are trying to make work that brings the fans in, but also hopefully is successfully culture building, right? And so, kind of the way I think about this is that yes, you have um, a fan base that you're there to build behind these stories, behind these movies and music and art and stories and all the things that culture builders create. It's not just about literature, right? But then you also have what your objective is as an artist, which isn't just to bring in fans and make money, right? It's to really create sufficiently fan worthy material. In other words, stuff that's worthy of your fans in the sense that it helps them, it benefits them, it benefits the community. It's not just light entertainment. Like there's a lot of people out there who all they want is to be entertained. They don't want anything that educates them or builds up their spirit in some way with like real beautiful, beautifying, powerful storytelling. They just want light entertainment or whatever. Sure, I guess that's a human quality. Sometimes we just want to be entertained. But think of it like a meal, right? If you're always feeding your kids all the sugary treats, it's not going to be good for their health. They're going to get more sick. They're going to be more frail. They're going to be sickly. It's not good for their body. It's not healthy for them. And storytelling and art is the same kind of thing. Culture itself is the same kind of thing. It's a meal that you consume. And when you consume food responsibly, you're getting the nutrition you need and you're feeling more satiated, right? And so, yes, this is a healthy diet, right? And so, for the full, the complete human being, it's not just your body, right? It's your mind, it's your heart, it's your spirit, your soul, knitting these things together. So, really, what you need is culture building myths that are not just fun, right? They are culture building. They are powerful. They have truth and values embedded in them that are good for you, right? So, like these stories, like the boy who cries wolf, you know, just the simplest tale, fairy tale, right? It's so nutritious because it has it's like Shakespeare in a way. It's just a little short Shakespearean tragedy, you know?
Mhm.
And it teaches all of us to not cry wolf because when you cry wolf, you damage your society, right? You yourself could be killed. But like you could also hurt many other people in your village when you complain about things that aren't worth complaining about. But these stories have powerful impact on society. And so they can protect you, and then when you ignore them, you can get harmed pretty easily. So these are great lessons to learn. And when we as creators can learn those essential, beautiful elements from these kinds of stories, we can then start to imbue them in our own stories, right? It doesn't have to be the same kind of lesson, but it's got to be true, enduring kind of culture building values just embedded in there. When it's elegantly placed in there, it's not seen as unintegral to the story or just kind of like incidental. It's not seen as preachy or unnecessary, right? It's seen as an integral part of the story and the plot.
I like what you said about them being like a meal, or there's something substantial to a story with moral value, a story with cultural value, something that um, explains why certain behavior is acceptable or unacceptable in that particular culture. I was just reading like the story of the Greeks to our kids. And there was this one story that I actually skipped over, and it was something about how the Greeks or the Spartans really valued, like, I don't know how to explain it, but like sneakiness.
Mhm.
And if their kids like and snuck into the food pantry and like stole food and got away with it, they were like really proud of their kids because they valued that so much. They valued being able to steal food. That was, that was like a fairy tale for them, or like a fable, like Aesop's fables for us. And then there was another story about this boy who like stole a fox or something, and he hid it in his shirt, and the fox wound up like biting the child and injuring it severely, but like he's like a hero. because he didn't tell anyone he had this fox hidden in his shirt. And I kind of skipped over that part because I was like, that's a weird, but that was a lesson that they valued, that their culture valued.
Yeah.
So there really is, and sometimes it seems subtle, sometimes it seems obvious. Um, but there really is a lot to be gained from fairy tales. A few months ago, I think I read the original Beauty and the Beast fairy tale, and it was really good. Like, it had so many layers of um, loyalty and faithfulness, and a person, being true to their promise and sacrificing for others. It just had so many amazing layers that, of course, don't really come through in the Disney cartoon, or, you know, they don't come through in kind of the obvious telling of the story. But there's just a lot that you can get out of fairy tales.
So I know, as you've said, and as we've said in the past, fairy tales, these myths have incredible value. And so when we are learning these essential truths, we're able to then kind of continue with this same tradition of creating, whether it's legends or fairy tales or myths that have this kind of power. These are the kinds of stories our society, our culture needs to thrive, to grow. When we just create stories to make a buck, right? And to make a living and to have a career, how are you contributing to society? Money is transferring hands. That's it. And who's going to remember your work in 10 years or 50 years? You know? So, what you really want is the kind of stories that benefit the minds of children, benefit the minds of adults, benefit people who are looking for strength, courage to continue on in their own journeys to make the world a better place. So, what I see when I tend to go to these events, so I'm not saying I go to a lot to these events because sometimes they can be expensive. What I see is a lot of people who are hoping that something great can come from this. And people who really believe in the kind of stories that can make their life better, right? Because sometimes what we're also seeing is things like, it isn't just books. Sometimes it's movies, sometimes it's shows, but sometimes it's also like board games, role-playing games, video games, these kinds of things too. And those things you can spend a considerably greater amount of time doing than like a movie or even a book sometimes. You could spend a lot longer playing a video game, or even better, this is the thing I want to start getting into. Even better, getting into really good board games that you can play with your family. I think those can be a lot of fun, can be very beneficial, and can be very culture building, right? Because not only do many of these board games have great stories, but they also involve you spending time with your family or your friends and interacting in a way that's building relationships, right? And I think that's really valuable, right? So I think the more of these things we have, the better. And what I'd like to see is, though, I'd like to see more that also kind of stir in the hearts and minds of fans discussions about life, discussions about God, discussions about culture and society. Why is our society the way it is? Right? And so there's a lot of really honestly good questions people could be asking but they're not always asking those questions. They're asking like really surface level questions. Why is the hero wearing the outfit that they're wearing? Like, that's fun, but if we think about what's really important, it's not that that outfit or the hero is not important. It's that those things need to play a small part in a bigger picture. And that bigger picture has more to do with life and our culture and God than it has to do with us in our kind of small questions. Like, really, the big questions to me should be part of the story and part of the game. And so I would say when these stories can kind of reach that level of myth, they are fan worthy. They're worthy of a lot of fans. Now, sadly, though, what I'm seeing is that a lot of fans just gravitate to fun stuff, and a lot of, you know, artists, writers just want to make things that are easy to sell. And that's kind of a problem. It means when you have a Q&A, you don't have a lot to talk about. It's not very much about God and society and important questions.
And
It's
it's like the worst thing is
about
when there's,
very surface level things.
yeah,
All right, what were you going to say?
yeah, I was just gonna say and the worst thing is when there's like this facade of depth
Yeah,
where the movie or whatever it is, um, has this like surface level, you said surface level, it has this like the title of it sounds very indie or very like
yeah,
hipster or just very deep, and you're like, wow, that what a weird title for a movie, like that's got to be a good movie, or you're drawn in, because it reminds you of like other deep things that
right.
you experienced growing up. And um but it's really just kind of like, I sort of hate to use this word, but like a regurgitation. There's so much like, you know, just reworking the same old thing. It's good to reference good things from the past, but we don't need to keep like remaking something like this feels hip or this feels indie. Like
Yeah,
we want the real thing.
it's got like the veneer of something cultured, but it's not really got any depth to it.
Yeah.
No consequential questions being asked about life.
Yeah.
We don't need any of that stuff. Like it's not worthy of having fans. And so I think the fans really need to start thinking about the deep things in life and starting gravitating to things that actually does a good job at answering some of those questions. And when it doesn't even attempt to do that, doesn't even aspire to answer some hard questions about life, I would say don't encourage your kids to read those things and don't encourage yourself to just eat like just calorie laden foods that don't have nutrition to them. It's not good for you. It's a waste of your time. It really is like those video games, right? That are just like boop, 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 all day. You're getting your thumbs are hurting and you've done nothing, right, all that time. But what you did do is succeeded in not thinking too much. And that's given you a break from, life. Sure, that's good for a little bit, that's good for half an hour or whatever, especially if you do hard work and you need a break. But like, come on, when most of your entertainment is just calorie laden junk that does not have nutrition, it's not going to be good for your heart, your soul, your mind. And I don't think it's going to improve society one bit. That's why I don't think it's culture building. It's culture destroying, right? It's bread and circuses in Rome. The bread and circuses were there to occupy the people so they weren't concerned about important issues of the day. They were distracted So they didn't care about how the government was screwed up and everything was badly managed, right? And the Rome was becoming a shambles. Instead, what they needed to do was actually involve people in the day-to-day rebuilding of the empire. And if they had done that instead, like maybe Rome wouldn't have fallen. So you need people who really care about the fact that our society has issues and they can start presenting some real questions and answers that people need to really struggle through in life to make their lives better. You know, when an artist has the gumption to actually tackle some of these difficult issues, you can see it, you can feel it. It feels important, it feels weighty, you know, it feels consequential. And so, like, good heroes can accomplish this, and thoughtful writers who really think through the scenarios that they're putting their characters through, they can really kind of present things differently in a way that's more pleasing or more effectual to a reader to actually help them to, you know, chew through a steak instead of through a bunch of candy, you know. It takes energy, it takes work to do that. And if you're not used to eating steak, like, it can be hard at first, but that's actually good for your body to get those enzymes going, to get your body capable and able to do that. It's good, it builds your body up. And so you're actually giving your body a little workout by doing that. It's good for you. So
Yeah.
I would say we need good fans to build up good creators, and we need good creators to build up fans. We need each other. And when we're not really helping each other in this way, we're actually not building a very strong community either. That community is just on the surface level. And so fans have less of a reason to be loyal to you as an artist. There's less going on there. And so if you were to like maybe make a bad piece of art, they say, bye, I'm not interested anymore. But if you make really consequential work and then you have a hiccup and have a make not so good of a piece of work, a lot of people, you know, a lot of fans, loyal fans are still going to be like, huh, what happened? But I'm going to stick with them. Like the kind of writer who would write this is not going to just become a bad writer tomorrow. So maybe they made a mistake, but I'm going to stick with them, right? What they're doing is still consequential. They're still obviously a good writer. They're smart. I, I think you should aspire to do that if you're an artist, have that kind of fan instead of just like thinking about what's popular right now in the next 5 minutes to make a buck. And so, you know, I think the way to do that is really to study the best masters over the last hundreds of years and thousands of years. And when you can study those people, you're doing real conservative art now, right? Conservative art lasts, it's enduring. That's what makes it conservative. So I would say, really, the best art is conservative because it's foundation building to our society. And then you return to it over and over. It's classic, right? It's classic work, classic
It,
rock, right?
it's
It's enduring.
relatable. Yeah.
What were you going to say?
It's relatable.
It's relatable. It's very human. You can always return to it. It's got enduring, eternal themes, right? And so if you kind of look at doing something like that instead of just something fun for the next 5 minutes, your work could last. It could survive the test of time. And your fans probably will too then. So that's the kind of stuff I'm going to be looking for at Realm Makers tomorrow. And hopefully the Fairy Queen will be part of that. We'll see if that book's over there. And if many other classic works are there. We're going to see who's interested in this kind of work, um, and see if we can acquire some of that stuff. But we care about Western civilization. We care about the roots of our society, not just the little branches and leaves on the ends. We care about the trunk and the roots, right? And you can't have all that extra stuff without the trunk and the roots. I would challenge you also to look for that kind of stuff. We'll have more information on realm makers next week as well. But if you happen to be in the area of Grand Rapids this weekend, head on out. Maybe I'll see you there. And maybe you'll see some fan-worthy culture building art out there. We'll see. So, well, where can people find you, Rebecca?
People can find me writing on Substack, Rebecca
Ooh.
Croft at substack.com. And where can people find you, Jon?
You can find me not writing on Substack this weekend because I'll probably be too busy. And I have been pretty busy the last few weeks. So taking trips and all.
Yeah, good stuff.
But yeah, I'm still trying to put up my YouTube every week, as you can see. And I put out, I think, one article this week, which was the Fairy Queen one. But hopefully I'll get more out soon. And we'll be talking more soon about stuff like cultural exodus and other things too that might be coming down the pike. We'll see. Well, I love you guys. Have a great weekend. Good night, America. Bye.